Hello, everybody. My name is Sebastian DeWarn, and I am on a mission. I am on a mission to interview candidates and people who have bold, youthful, energetic, and just overall optimistic messages to spread because in our times, we do need that optimism. And today I am here to talk with a candidate who embodies this very ideology. Her name is Tessa Lynn Hodge, and she has a lot to say about our communities, our relations with our neighbors, and just fostering a sense of community that America currently doesn't seem to have, and overall reinstilling progressive values through her run for Congress. So she's currently running for the 23rd district of California's Congress seat. And without further ado, here is the interview. All right. So thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. And you are the third candidate running for Congress that I've actually interviewed. And with that being said, my question that I always ask is, did you have a specific moment where you thought, I have to run for Congress specifically? And why did you decide to run for this office specifically, any other? And yeah, when did it all click?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, Sebastian. So my name is Tessa Lynn Hodge, and yes, I am running for Congress in California's 23rd congressional district. So I would say for me, when it really clicked and really when I felt called to do this was back in February. And so we had had about a month of the current administration in office. And I am a mental health provider, and there was a reoccurring theme coming up with my clients, just in terms of fear and what's going to happen and how is this going to impact me and that and so on and so forth. And as a therapist, I was really thinking, okay, like how do I start addressing these different issues? What interventions can I use? What modalities? And it really kind of came down to as a mental health provider, I can provide a safe space. I can help build coping skills. I can validate feelings, but it doesn't do anything to touch the actual systemic root of what is happening in our country and why so many people are so fearful. And so what motivated me to run was, okay, well, if what I can do as a mental health provider is not enough, I need to do something else. Because as a licensed clinical social worker, in social work, we're taught that if we see a need, we need to address it. And so I saw a need to do more for my clients, to do more for my community. And so I said, okay, let's run for Congress. The current incumbent, consistently votes against the best interests of this district and against the best interests of the American people. And I'm born and raised in this district. I've spent my entire professional career giving back to this district. I feel like I have a good shot at doing this. So let's give it a try. Let's see what I can do.
That's amazing. Yeah, we really need more youthful candidates. By the way, what are your thoughts on candidates such as, do you know Kate Abaguzale? Have you heard of her?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. Did you see the video, by the way, of her getting thrown in the street by, we could call it a militia at this point. Did you see that video?
I did see that video, and it is absolutely disgusting that she is engaging in a First Amendment right of peaceful protest, right? And and let's just say, okay, if she was sitting in front of a vehicle or whatever, there is no need for this grown, large man to throw her to the ground. There is no need for that much force. And it's disgusting to me that this kind of force is force that we're seeing against members of our community, against Kat, against families, against teenagers, against, we're seeing this far too often in our streets. And we've been seeing this for years, right? The Black Lives Matter movement, we've seen this with just it is a consistent theme in our country. And, Yes, I think it is absolutely disgusting and completely uncalled for.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, remind me if I'm right or wrong, but there was an incident with your husband that happened at a protest as well. Do you care to talk about that?
Sure. So my husband, so when the Trump administration came in and I kind of started having these thoughts about, potentially running for Congress, we sat down and we had a discussion, and because it feels like there's kind of two ways to go about things, like run for office or like get active, start organizing, and so we're kind of approaching it from the same but two different ways. I'm running for Congress, and he kind of very quickly became the go-to person for organizing protests and rallies and demonstrations in our area. So he has a weekly every Sunday protest that, besides organizing like the larger national protests, he does every single Sunday. And a couple Sundays in a row, they had a person that was a counter protester that would come and kind of heckle them, and it's whatever, like my husband didn't really do anything. Well, my husband had an American flag that he was waving back and forth, and this counter protester called the police and said that my husband physically assaulted him with the flagpole. And so police came, and they came rolling like five deep, uh, came up to my husband, handcuffed him, walked him across the busiest street in our area. So there are people taking pictures of him, posted it all over social media, where he's handcuffed, being led to a police car. He was detained. And thankfully, one of the other people that was with my husband had been recording the entire incident and was able to show the police that that had not happened. My husband did not assault anybody. And so my husband was released. But I think it again just goes to show like the tactics that are being used by this other side to silence us are very real.
Yeah, and it seems like at this point it's citizens versus citizens. There's a system, and that was like just a general citizen doing that. And I guess my question would be, as a therapist and somebody in mental health, how do you get people to go to protests and be part of, I guess, the political dialogue in the midst of times that are violent, where people are against each other? Yeah, what would your message be as somebody in mental health?
So, and this has been something that I've talked about a lot lately. We are in a time where we feel more divided than ever, where things do get heated, to say the least, in many different circumstances. And I think, my big thing is I think the reason why we've gotten so divided is because community. We do not know our communities. How many of us engage with our neighbors on a daily basis? How many of us know the name of the person at the gas station that works down the street that we stop at every morning to get our AM PM coffee or whatever? Um, uh, if we need something from the store, we order it on Amazon. We don't go to the store and have a conversation with the clerk in line. And so we are so disconnected from our immediate community, which has created an epidemic of isolation and loneliness. So, how did we solve that? We went online. And we all know that the algorithms are terrible, and just it feeds into a cycle, right? And so, in this time when we're feeling more disconnected, we're feeling more scared, my biggest piece of advice is get out into your community. Go find a club, go to your library, see if they're having a book circle, find people to connect with. And whether that's politically, whether you join a Democratic club or you go to protests and rallies, or if that's just finding like a yoga class that you like to go to and connecting with the people at your yoga class. Find community, connect with people in the real world. Please touch grass. That is going to be the biggest thing for people's mental health, is just that genuine human connection, because we do co-regulate with each other. And so if we're around other people that we feel safe with, that we have positive experiences with, we're going to be able to co-regulate downward and be in a more relaxed state.
No, I really love that, specifically the "Go touch grass." That speaks to me. But also as the candidate running for Congress, what do you think that there's a role that the government can play other than just people going basically, how can the government help enable this?
Community building or
Yes,
touch
exactly.
grass?
Community building and community, I guess, civic engagement and just knowing your neighbors and just a lack of divisiveness.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, first and foremost, it starts with not having a president that says, I hate my enemies.
He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them.
Sorry, I call it like I see it. So I think that's kind of where it starts first and foremost, and not blaming one political party or another for a very violent act when we have no facts. But so I think it starts there. But what can our government do? So as somebody running for Congress, what could I do when I get into Congress that could help build these communities and help people to meet their neighbors and do these things? So one of the ways, and there's many, but one of the ways is, look at the way that most houses are built, right? They're big tract homes, or the big tract, yeah, tract homes, and in these large tracts, where there's all these houses, there's no parks, there's no community centers. There's no pool. There's no coffee shops. There's no anything. It's just homes. And so you go to your home, you get off work, you get home with the kids, you go home, you make dinner, the kids do homework, play on their tablets, computers, whatever, you go to bed. There's no room for community engagement where, summer, you get home from work, it's still warm, it's still hot. Oh, the pool is 2 blocks away. Let's go walk to the pool and go to the pool, where you meet other parents. Your kids meet other kids in the neighborhood. And so it starts with having regulation. It starts with having legislation that really incentivizes builders to build in a community like fashion, to have spots for businesses like a coffee shop, like a diner, a pool, a park, recreation, whatever it is, so that it's not just homes that people are going to and secluding themselves. So there's actual reason to get out into the community.
That actually reminds me a lot of, I heard it placed like this, in America, you buy a house to seclude yourself, and in Europe, you buy a house, but you're almost never there. So it reminds me of, like, this kind of Nordic philosophy that I often talk about with, like, transportations and just increasing overall connectivity. My next question for you has actually to do with the youth, because first off, you are very clearly a strong member of the youth, which is great. But I often hear about it from my friends about media apathy and just not looking at the news and all that, which is completely valid from a mental health standpoint. But also, I heard it said this way that you need the news to have democracy, and the news does not need democracy, but democracy needs the news. And without the news, basically, it gets rid of democratic processes and all that. How do you think we can increase media and just in a healthy way in our times and day and age? Sorry if that's a long question.
No, like, I completely understand. So I did school-based mental health services for several years, and I was at a high school. So I worked with kids at the high school. Teenagers are like, that is my population. I love working with my teenagers. And so I think I'm trying to think like how to condense this answer. So let's think about when we are little kids, right? And I promise this is going to go somewhere. So let's think about when we're little kids. And I know, and I'm much older than I look, but when I was a little kid, like, in the early 90s, we didn't have phones and tablets and everything else. If my dad needed to go to AutoZone and Home Depot and go to the bank and go run and do errands, I was going with him, right? And he wasn't going to bring a whole bunch of toys and a tablet and whatever else with him. I just had to go with him and be good, right? And so when he's sitting there looking at skill saws in Home Depot for 2 hours, I have to be able, as a kid, to regulate myself. I am bored. I have to learn how to be okay with being bored. And so that's a skill that we learn as small children. And it's really about being uncomfortable because when we're bored, that's kind of uncomfortable, right? So from a very early age, we start to learn these skills of how to be uncomfortable and how to be okay with being uncomfortable. But if we think about nowadays, we're always on 10 different phones, right? Well, maybe just me because I have 3 different phones for, all my different things. But we're always on a phone, we're on a tablet, we're on a watch, a computer, whatever. And our kids too are very much the same thing. And so even if we as adults learned those skills as a child, we're not regularly using those skills. And so those skills get rusty. So we don't stay very good at being uncomfortable. Now, how does this go into the media and the news? The news is uncomfortable. The news is scary, but we have to engage with it. And so where it really kind of goes to is we have to start being okay and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. It is not comfortable to look at what's happening in Gaza. It's not comfortable to look at what's happening in the United States. It's not comfortable to look at what's happening to our neighbors and our communities. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. But then we have to know how to regulate that emotion and then how to go into action in an effective way. And so our kids are losing those skills. We as adults are losing those skills. And so we got to do a better job of bringing our skills back up.
I love that. And on a different note, I heard you talk about Gaza, and I can definitely assume that you don't take APAC money.
I do not.
Great. And with that being said, there's basically a new wave of candidates, such as I've already mentioned, Ka Abugzaleh and Mamdani, and they're both fighting against Republicans, but also against very entrenched Democrats who are very moderate. What are your thoughts on how the Democratic Party has gone so far, and your message to candidates like that who are very entrenched and moderate?
Hmm. So, look, I understand that our political system is, and especially as a grassroots candidate who does not take not just APAC money, but any large corporate PAC money, um, it is really hard to win an election. Grassroots. It is really, really hard to do that, especially when the incumbent in the race that I'm running is worth almost $100 million all on his own. And he takes all of the money from, all of the PACs and corporations. But so I can understand why Democrats have taken this money to fight against the Republican machine, right? However, I firmly believe that how can you answer to your constituents, answer to the people in your district, while also having to answer to corporate and PAC entities? You can't, because those two things are going to clash against each other. The wants of one, the needs of one, and the wants and needs of the other are going to clash against each other. And so I truly, truly believe that you cannot take PAC money, like large corporate PAC money. You cannot take corporate money, period, and answer to your constituents. You can't do it. And so that is why I have pledged not to take large corporate PAC money, not to take corporate money. And I am completely community funded. As I like to say when I'm talking to people, a successful campaign is not just it's not just me. It's not just the person that's running. A successful campaign is hundreds and even thousands of people working together to make a campaign successful. And that's donors, that's activists, that's people volunteering, that's people working on the campaign. It takes all of us, it takes 1,000 people to make a campaign successful. And a lot of that is going to be from small community people in my community donating to my campaign.
Yeah, so it's a community-based campaign. And
Mhm.
alongside that, I mean, obviously going against somebody who's filthy rich like Jay Obernolte, and he has $97 million. He has, I think, the largest private jet, and he is backed by tons of money. What is it like to run a grassroots campaign against someone who has so much money and who is so entrenched in, well, let's call it corruption, basically?
Mhm, mhm. Um, I think on one hand, it's disheartening. When I talk to people in my community that, you know, maybe have voted him for him consistently, I think it's maybe disappointing that um the light has not been shown to them yet, right? That he
They're
is
not
corrupt,
aware?
that he does, yes, that they're not aware, that he is corrupt, that he does take all this money, that he takes money from Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Healthcare. So how could he ever be trusted to vote on something regarding healthcare that impacts them when he's taking money from the healthcare corporations? So I think on one hand it's disheartening, but I think on the other hand, it it gives me the opportunity to do that work and to connect with people in my community, to help them learn these things, to help shed light on these things. But it is very difficult knowing that, when it gets closer to and all the signs go up, right, on all the street corners, then I'm going to be at a disadvantage because he can buy 10 times more than I can. He can hire people to go out and put those signs up all at once, where I may be able to do some of that, but definitely not to the level that he is. So that's maybe a little discouraging, but it just means that I have to fight all the harder. I have to get out into the community. I have to do that work. I have to talk to people every day because that's one thing that he isn't going to do and that he doesn't do. He does not get out into the community. He does not talk to the people, and that's where I will have the advantage.
Yeah, and I guess at the end of the day, people are gonna remember you for actually talking to them.
Mhm.
And I know that you use the word disheartening, but I have to say every time that I've seen you, you're always smiling and you're always positive. And I honestly, I love the infectious energy because that is exactly what we need in our day and age. So on these closing notes, my question is, how can our viewers help with your campaign? Do you have a website and do you have an Instagram? And how can they donate and help?
Mhm. I want to get to that because it is very important, but I do want to make a comment. Thank you for just the kind words about, the infectious, like a positive energy. Just I I've been asked, like, how do you maintain this? Because this is, I say, I'm kind of at a 10, like, all the time in terms of the infectious, bubbly energy. And I think it really comes from, I didn't have the easiest childhood. I'm born and raised in the district, and unfortunately, my parents struggled with some of the same struggles that some of my constituents struggle with, and that's addiction, domestic violence, mental health. And as a kid, I had to deal with the repercussions of, having parents that struggled with that. And then at 16, I was unfortunately in a car accident that took the life of two of my friends. And so I kind of look at it as, the worst of my life is behind me. Like, I have control. I am in control of my attitude. I'm in control of my future. Well, maybe not completely in control of if I win or lose, because that will ultimately be up to the voters. But I have choices to make. And so I very much choose to be bubbly and infectious. And because why would I've done the other stuff. Why would I want to be anything else? Um, but so thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate
Yeah, I
it.
mean, we could practically do an entire other video on the philosophy of just running a campaign because I imagine it just takes so much out of you every day and you just have to show up.
You do. You just have to show up. And I very much take, my work as a social worker and as a therapist into that. What do I do as a social worker and a therapist? I just show up. Like as a therapist, it's, much less about what interventions I'm using or what I'm doing. It's more about just the showing up. And so yeah, I show up.
Yeah,
But
you're not fighting for odds, you're fighting for people.
exactly. Thank you. So for my campaign, again, I'm running against somebody who is worth $97 million, and I, as a social worker, most definitely am not. So any donations are greatly appreciated. You can go to my website, tessa4ca.com. That's TESSAFORCA.com. You can donate. You can also sign up to volunteer. Door knocking, phone banking, going with me to events is something that is greatly helpful because oftentimes at events there's like a million people to talk to, and so just having somebody to help me like grab cards or hand me a card to hand to somebody is super helpful.
Do you have any
Uh,
events?
I'm sorry.
Do you have any events specifically coming up that people can
I
join?
do. So on November 12th, I will be having an event at Sacred Sands out in the Morongo Basin. I'm also currently planning an event that will be in the high desert, in the Victorville area. And I'm really excited for this one because it kind of goes along with my mental health piece. Um, uh, so many of the people that I'm talking to are incredibly overwhelmed and anxious and just fearful, like we've talked about. So I'm planning a campaign event where people will have the opportunity to ask me questions. And of course, I'm hoping to fundraise. But I'm going to have a friend of mine do a sound bath. And we're going to just do some deep breathing, some meditation to really try to just give an opportunity for people to participate in the political process, but also take care of themselves. So I don't have a date and a location for that yet, but I am working on that. It will be very soon. And so on my website, not only can you sign up to volunteer, not only can you donate, but you can also sign up for my mailing list. And I keep everything up to date with all the events and everything. So information on that sound bath event will be coming out soon.
Amazing. And do you have any social media platforms where people can follow you?
I do. I am on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, other
You're
things.
everywhere. You're everywhere.
I'm everywhere. It's usually Tessa4CA, so TESSAFORCA, or Tessa Lynn Hodge.
Amazing. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and it was amazing talking to you.
Thank you so much.